Hi everyone, Meteorologist Joel Curtis with your aviation weather on Monday, June 24th. Starting out with a flying weather Tuesday morning, most of the IFR is really offshore. All the way around the coastlines and into the Gulf of Alaska. We have a little bit of IFR in Kennedy Entrance, a little bit in Prince William Sound. Again, some IFR, though, however, is in the southeastern panhandle, all the way up to the Canadian border in many places, and marginal VFR elsewhere, so the flying weather is certainly going to be instrument for that time. Starting out for Tuesday afternoon, however, you can see that there's a lot of VFR opens up in the panhandle. Still some marginal VFR on up into the northern sections. Also, the IFR has drifted off the coast in the Gulf of Alaska. And then we can see that IFR is well out into the Bering Sea. Marginal VFR is still not quite up to the coast, and some IFR conditions and marginal VFR conditions along the north slope. For Wednesday morning, however, that IFR conditions move on up to the north slope coast, also a bit in the Chukchi Sea, extensive IFR over the central and western Bering Sea. Most of the Gulf of Alaska will be IFR and marine stratus, but now you can see with some offshore flow that the panhandle now is VFR even in the morning. And then for Wednesday afternoon, the panhandle remains VFR, maybe a little bit of marginal VFR in some of the channels. IFR out into the Gulf, also along the southern end of the Kodiak Island. And then extensive IFR in the central and western Bering Sea, and then offshore from the north slope. So for our pass conditions, note that most of the passes that we have thunderstorms are indicated. Those indicate icing and turbulence wherever you have the cells. So the cells for our flying weather on Tuesday will be see and avoid. So Anaktuvik, marginal VFR flying conditions with some thunderstorms in the area. Also Adigan Pass, thunderstorms in the area, VFR. For Lake Clark and Merrifield, VFR and thunderstorms in the area. Rainy Pass, marginal VFR in the morning, a little marine stratus, and then VFR certainly by noon. Thunderstorms again in the area. Windy Pass, thunderstorms in the area, VFR. Isabel Pass, VFR and thunderstorms in the area. Mentasta Pass, VFR, thunderstorms. Tahitian Pass, VFR and thunderstorms. Portage Pass, the cells will be actually to the north of the pass over the Chugach. Otherwise, marginal VFR a little bit in the morning and then becoming VFR by noon. Chilkoot and White Pass, IFR in the morning, becoming marginal VFR in the afternoon with some cumulus. So for our freezing levels, an area of really high freezing level down in the Aleutians up to 10,000 feet, but as you can see, it gradually tapers off until it's roughly between 6,000 and 8,000 feet over most of Alaska, 8,000 feet certainly over the southern panhandle. For our icing on Tuesday, for the central interior, icing will be in the towering cumulus clouds and CBs. That always occurs. But take a look at where the synoptic scale icing is. It's out in the Bering Sea, roughly about 4,000 to 10,000 feet, with considerable moderate touching St. Matthew Island and also St. Lawrence. But if on the south side of the Alaska Peninsula, we do have some considerable moderate. That's above 8,000 feet and up there pretty high. So for our jet stream on Tuesday, there is a branch of the jet, 95 knots, going into the Bering Strait area, crossing Siberia and into the Chukchi Sea. Also, we have a little bit of northerlies, about 25, ramping up to 30 knots or so as you get down past Kodiak Island. Around the low in the Bering Sea, we have up to 100 knots south of the Aleutians, and then things become southeasterlies, but pretty light, about 20-25 knots or so as you get further north. For our 9,000-foot winds on Tuesday, we have a band of 65-knot winds touching into the Aleutians around the low-pressure system, But note about creeping on up to about 50 knots or so as you get down to the southwest coast. And then for our 3,000 foot winds, again, the big circulation is around the low pressure system in the Bering Sea. 60 knots on the backside and the south side, 65 knots coming up through the Alaska Peninsula, almost to the Pribilofs, and some bands of about 40 on up to the southwest coast or so. So for our turbulence on Tuesday, first of all, we have an area of thunderstorms over most of the interior, and that'll be a surface of 12,000 feet over the central interior. CBs and TCUs are build-up clouds. And then for our synoptic scale turbulence on Tuesday, we have a surface of 5,000 feet for the Pribilofs, some considerable moderate along the southwest capes like Cape Newenham, across Bristol Bay, and then much of the Alaska Peninsula as well as out to the Aleutians. So thank you very much for tuning in. Please remember to file a flight plan and fly safe out there.